Well, just 1 week ago, then Hurricane Iota was devastating Central America, delivering more than 30 inches of rain. That's 2.5 feet of rain to portions of Honduras and Nicaragua, which led to flooding and landslides that washed away homes, roads, and bridges, as well as people. In fact, it killed more than 150 people. Now, Central America keeping a close eye on now newly named Tropical Depression 31. Yes, the tropic's still active here in this record-setting year of 2020. What else could happen? Well, back-to-back flooding disasters. That's what could happen in Central America. That's the forecast right now. So this could be a humanitarian crisis unfolding in front of our eyes. Right now, bringing rain to parts of Jamaica and as it moves TD31 there. Again, we're still dealing with a post-tropical storm Eta as well as tropical storm Theta moving on towards portions of Western Europe and northwestern Africa. But let's zoom in on TD31. Moving west-southwest at 7 miles per hour. It's starting to look more and more organized here as we head over the last, say, 12 hours or so, hence now upgrade to a tropical depression. The forecast, though, is for a tropical storm and to become a hurricane, possibly Cat 2, Cat 3 range here as we head through this weekend and into next weekend. Look at where it's going. The exact area where Eta dumped 2.5 feet of rain. That is a huge concern across this area. You can already see the potential rainfall, 20, another 30-plus inches of rain on top of all the rain we just got, 7 days ago. This is a huge concern. Right now you can see we're seeing parts of the Hispaniola seeing a few scattered showers there and some showers moving in even at Kingston, Jamaica here. We'll see our rain chance increase as we head into tomorrow as well. But yeah, the water vapor imagery showing not much shear ahead of the system, so it's moving in an area that can definitely aid this thing in developing and strengthening, and all the models do take it, unfortunately, right back across the same terrain that Eta dumped feet of rain here. So a huge concern what we'll see over the next several days. And again, you can see where Eta's track is. So another 20, 30 inches on top of what just happened, 20, 30 inches, not what we want to see. Felicia?
Yeah, Paul, definitely a terrible situation.
But let's bring in Dr. Dab because we are going to talk about spooky, record-breaking hurricane season. Here we go. Iota named today.
Yeah, 30th named storm of the year, so that is extending the record for named storms. We broke the record from 2005, but I would say that a record that would be more impressive to break, and it's probably going to be broken by this storm, is we could get our 13th hurricane of the year. That would put this year all by itself in second place for most hurricanes on record, 2 behind the 15 of 2005. This is a slow mover at the moment. Now, because that is happening over water right now, that's not the worst thing in the world when it comes to rainfall. But that slow motion has a lot of bad news behind it, because what that buys this storm is more time over the very warm waters, the warmer than average for this time of year waters of the central and western Caribbean, to strengthen as the Hurricane Center forecasts to make it to a major hurricane. Now, if it stays in the central or southern half of this cone, then it would probably make landfall sometime on Monday or Monday night, again, like Eta did in Nicaragua or maybe northeastern Honduras. However, if it stays a little farther north, it could get even stronger over the waters just north of Honduras. Neither is good, but that's one of the wrinkles in the intensity forecast. So there's really not too much of a lid on how strong this can get if it stays over the warm waters. You see some models keep it down in here, some models up here. Now this one, that HMON, that's one of the Weather Service dedicated hurricane models. I'll show you the intensity forecast from that model in a little bit. Here's Eta's track. So this is going to be round number 2 for a big landslide and flooding event, we fear, for Central America. Now, I talked about that HMON. That's that track I showed you over there. That goes north of Honduras and brings it above to Cat 4. That is not out of the question, Mike.
Good morning, everyone. Time is 5:09. Tropical storm Iota moving very slowly towards the southwest at 5 miles per hour. Sustained winds of 40 miles per hour in the Caribbean, spreading all that tropical moisture in South America. Here's the latest forecast track. It is going to be similar as Eta just 2 weeks ago, making landfall as a major hurricane again on Tuesday and Wednesday as a Category 3 hurricane by midweek, and then it will lose intensity on Wednesday and Thursday as a low pressure system, but good news is will not turn into the Caribbean.
We are tracking the tropics as a record-setting season continues.
First Alert meteorologist James Whelan has more on this tropical storm and our local forecast. James?
Yeah, thanks a lot, guys. Here's Iota here, and it is strengthening. Not quite a hurricane yet, but it is forecast to become a hurricane in the upcoming days. And if it becomes a hurricane, that will be our 13th hurricane of the season. Only one season prior to this has had more than 13 storms. That's 2005. We're always comparing to that. But 2005 had 15 hurricanes. So still a little bit disorganized here. Hurricane hunters are out here trying to figure out what's going on, but the forecast does call for this thing to strengthen here in the upcoming days, and not only strengthen into a hurricane, but we're talking into a major hurricane, a Category 3 storm here that's going to hit pretty much where Eta did, right around the Nicaragua and Honduras border there. And then it'll dissipate. This time, though, it doesn't look like it's going to hook and do that crazy turn and head up towards us. See all the models here? Pretty much continue it, maybe even push it back into the Pacific here. So we'll keep an eye on it just in case. But for now, that should stay to the south.
The storm became a hurricane overnight. Jennifer has the latest forecast. Plus, she'll tell us if we're in for a sunny Sunday here at home.
This is CBS 4 News This Morning.
Well, hello there. It is 7:01 to be exact, Sunday, November 15th. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Maribel Rodriguez. Let's get our first check of our Sunday morning forecast with CBS 4's meteorologist Jennifer Correa. Jen, good morning.
Good morning, Maribel. So I'm going to start with Hurricane Iota because it's something to watch, not because it's a hit for us. It's a hit for Central America, unfortunately. And this Iota is going to continue to strengthen. It is a Category 1 right now, and the latest advisory just coming in at 7 a.m. located 380 miles east-southeast of Nicaragua-Honduras border. So it continues to move very slowly, and because it's moving so slow over the warm waters of the southwestern Caribbean Sea, of course, this is only going to fuel its strengthening. And so as we continue on the next few days, the next 2 days rather, less than that, it is expected to upgrade to a major hurricane, maybe possibly a Category 4 before making landfall overnight Monday into Tuesday over parts of coastal Nicaragua. This is a similar areas that were hit by Eta. Unfortunately, they're going to be hit a second time as well. Now, Iota will continue to track westward. It's all thanks to this high pressure system that will keep Iota blocked from the United States. And so it's riding along this steering flow around this high across Central America. I'll have our full forecast coming up.
Because here comes that front. This passes through on Tuesday. Behind it will cool it down. So don't get overly excited, but temperatures are looking pretty good a little bit later on this week. Here's Hurricane Iota. This is a bad storm, already a strong Category 2 with winds to 105. It cleared its eye out today, and there's nothing that can slow it down and keep it from increasing in intensity. In fact, it's going to explode tonight and into tomorrow up to landfall. Tomorrow night as a Category 4 is forecast. And if you compare this to what we had just 2 weeks ago, where Hurricane Eta struck in an eerily similar spot to where this is projected to go, also as a Category 4. It's just agonizing to see that for the people of Central America. Now, Eta hooked back up here into the Gulf of Mexico, as we well know. This one will not do that. It stays down to the south in Central America, well away from us. Laren?
As we take you to a view from Honduras, you can see here the view from earlier of water rescues underway. You know, unfortunately, as we move forward in time, we are going to deal with more situations like this. But we do want to go over the latest with Iota with you. And then in just a bit, We are minutes away from a historic Launch America mission taking place right now at Cape Canaveral with NASA and SpaceX. But first, Matt's got the details on the hurricane hunters. Matt.
Okay, so let's check out Iota right here. The hurricane hunters are coming on through. We got the storm coming in out across Honduras and Nicaragua, just off to the south of Jamaica. And unfortunately, this is not good news for Nicaragua. It's coming on the same path that we had Eta come in about 2 weeks ago. And now this thing is getting stronger. And that's been the forecast. Winds upwards of 100 miles per hour. Movement is to the west now at about 9 miles an hour. And it looks like the path this storm is going to get pretty close to where Eta did just 2 weeks ago. Coming in as a Cat 3 or Cat 4 storm, that is a major hurricane. Catastrophic damage going to take place just like it did the first time when Eta came ashore about 2 weeks ago. So it comes in to northeastern Nicaragua, comes right across Nicaragua in through southern Honduras, and it looks like it gradually winds on down to a tropical storm. But the big news here is going to be, again, a lot of big time winds. The winds are going to be catastrophic, 120, 130, 140 when it makes landfall, and then as it continues that westward trajectory, eventually becoming a tropical low. But I'll tell you, the rainfall anywhere between 20, 30, maybe even 35 inches of rain, just like we saw with Eta. So here it is, the path of Eta versus Iota. When Eta comes in, or came in rather, was right in here as a Cat 4 storm, northeastern Nicaragua. Look where Iota is coming in, just to the north here, and the damage is going to be very similar. I mean, we're feeling the pain already for these people. They've been through so much with, of course, Eta, and now Iota is coming in just as strong and pretty much on the very same path, tracking on through. Tropical alerts are up. Hurricane warnings. We have tropical storm warnings up for both Honduras and Nicaragua, and Iota expected to get even stronger. So the winds right now are 100. They could go up to 130, 140. Major hurricane status right there with heavy rain and catastrophic winds coming in. Look at the tight isobars just all packed together, and it's coming on in and then eventually spreading in just tremendous amounts of rain out across Honduras and Nicaragua. Flash flooding, mudslides, those are all going to be possible, and it's all unfortunately because of really warm sea surface temperatures. They're over 80 degrees, which is what you need, unfortunately, to have tropical storms and hurricanes. But this late in the year, usually the waters are not that warm, but this is an unusual year to say the least. All the hurricane models are coming together, putting landfall right in here in extreme northeastern Nicaragua, so we had great confidence in that. And then unfortunately the rainfall is going to spread inland right across Honduras up through Belize. That could easily be 10, 20 inches of rain, maybe even more than that. So we have to again worry about the mudslides and the landslides, especially since that area just had all that less than 2 weeks ago. So we're now working through the Greek alphabet up through Iota. We've never had an Eta, a Theta, or an Iota since the late 1800s, of course. There's this many hurricanes and storms. We're now up to 30 tropical storms and hurricanes in one Atlantic season, and that's pretty much a record at this particular point.
Switching gears, look at the tropics. I am watching Hurricane Iota, very strong storm, expected to become a Category 4 eventually. We're at a Category 2, winds 105, pressure down at 960 millibars. This is going to be another devastating week for Central America. It's going to impact the same area that saw impacts from Hurricane Eta just last week, which was also a Category 4 storm. Do have another area that is expected to possibly develop in the same location that Iota, the same location that Eta developed in the Caribbean Sea. Right now, we're at a 20% chance over the next 5 days. If it is going to develop, it will track west, and the next name on the list is Kappa.
Let's go to what we're watching as the front is over northern Florida, right over Jacksonville. There are some showers across parts of the northern half of our state. All right, we are tracking Hurricane Iota. This system is a powerful Category 4 hurricane. Really unfortunate for our friends across Central America and Nicaragua, Honduras, bracing themselves for yet another massive hurricane. They just had to deal with Eta a few weeks ago. Now, it's unfortunate because it is expected to make landfall very close to the area that Eta was also projected to make landfall and did make landfall. So the one thing I can tell you, it's going to continue west at 10 miles per hour. It's a powerful system moving at west at 10 miles per hour with winds of 145 miles per hour.
Some of us will see highs above average by a long shot.
Tevin, this may be a stretch, but I'm going to do it anyway. I think by time we look at the rest of the month, the current cold shot that's coming through is going to be the coldest for the rest of the month. Hold me to it. All right, so here we go, guys. Look at this. Speaking of, Tevin was talking about what goes up must come down. Well, what goes down, the pressure must come up in the wind field. Look at this. We're on the verge of a Cat 5 hurricane this morning with Iota. I know, all weekend we're kind of watching this thing futz around. Now we've got a 925 millibar Cat 5. Now listen, this was the advisory from the Hurricane Center before the hurricane hunters got into this morning. So they're just getting into this now, and if they find something even more extreme than that, they will update that, and that will go out. So we could have a Cat 5 on our hands. We really could, which is saying a lot here in this part of November. But look at the rampant wrap-up here since Saturday. Yeah, that's why a lot of you went to bed last night with a Cat 2, and you woke up this morning with a Cat 4. Strong Cat 4 on the verge of Cat 5. So where does this rank in terms of the classes? 1932 Cuba hurricane, 175 mile per hour. We are second, and wrong way. We're just tied with wrong way Lenny. Lenny, of course, going east in the Caribbean, where they typically go toward the west. Back in 1999, also at 155 miles an hour. I think we got a pretty good chance of beating that, certainly. Again, you can see the hurricane hunters are going through the eye wall right now. We're pretty close to it. Really, really tough. The little island right down there to the south of the eye, Providencia, right there. It's an island of Colombia. And they are absolutely in that eye wall. What an awful situation there. So further strengthening a possibility, but so many of the same areas that got nailed with Eta just a couple of weeks ago are going to get this again, and we're going to see phenomenal amounts of rainfall once again. So unbelievable here. A lot of these people may not even know this is coming. Yeah, it's a horrible situation here. We got a Cat 5. I mean, it was when it was 155. Now with what the data from the Hurricane Center found this morning, making 3 passes through the center in the eye wall, we have a 160 mile per hour Cat 5 hurricane, pressure at 917 millibars. And you got to wonder if this could even go up a little bit before it makes landfall. Greg, you can tell me if they're actually going to 165 with the forecast. Yes, as a matter of fact, they are. There it is right there. Again, coming in very close to where Eta came in just a couple of weeks ago. This time is a much wider and even stronger hurricane. So unbelievable here. This becomes, by the way, at this point, this may go up as we saw, the second strongest November hurricane on record with 160 mile per hour winds. Could we get to 165? Absolutely. Let's hope we don't get stronger than that. Only behind the 1932 Cuba hurricane. Just horrible news here for Central America. The 7th Category 5, Tevin, in the last 5 years here. That is a stat.
Yeah, absolutely devastating situation unfolding right now. I mean, this is on top of Eta as well, Jim. So we know that the folks in Central America will need our thoughts and prayers and financial support as well. As
NBC6 First Alert Weather, certified most accurate 7 years in a row.
All right, we have a cold front on the way. I'm going to tell you about that here in a moment. But first, let's focus on the tropics because this record-breaking storm season continues. Right now, we are tracking Category 5 Iota as it approaches the same exact area, Nicaragua and Honduras, and will make landfall just in basically near the exact same spot that Eta made landfall about 2 weeks ago. This storm a little stronger. Either way, though, doesn't matter. The impacts will essentially be the same, if not worse. 160 mile per hour winds at this hour, west movement at 9 miles per hour. That puts Eta making landfall here as we get into the late evening and overnight hours tonight as a Category 5 hurricane. So impacts include storm surge up to 20 feet, especially along the coast where this eye wall comes on shore. Of course, catastrophic damage that will extend away from the eye wall, but the worst of it, of course, will be right near that center. The rainfall amounts, 20 to 30 inches of rain possible. It'll eventually be a Category 1 by the time we get into Tuesday and a tropical storm down the line. But still, the impacts in this area that has already been devastated in recent weeks will continue to be an issue. Isolated amounts of rain up to 30 inches. So the flooding concerns are major. The storm surge concern is major, as well as those winds. Here, locally, a much different story. Nice conditions. Mid-80s for some at this hour, 85. There you see it in Fort Lauderdale with a feels like temperature of 90 degrees. We're going to get a bit of a break from the humidity here as we trend through the next couple of days.
Iota intensifies. It's now a Category 5 storm. The system is expected to make landfall tonight in Central America, where some countries like Honduras and Nicaragua are still reeling from Hurricane Iota.
And let's get right to our chief certified meteorologist, Betty Davis, with the dangers Iota could bring for those countries.
Well, they are already starting to feel some tropical storm force winds. And once that eye wall moves ashore, that is where the catastrophic wind damage will happen. And it's forecast to make a landfall in the northeastern area of Nicaragua along the coast, pretty close to where Eta came in a couple weeks ago. The rain forecast for parts of Central America, some 10 to 20 inches. Isolated amounts up to 30 inches. Storm surge forecasts 15 to 20 feet along parts of the coast of Nicaragua and Honduras. We did just get the new advisory in. Winds of 160 miles per hour. Very powerful hurricane still moving west at 9 miles per hour. Rain bands coming in, and later tonight, that is when the landfall is going to be anticipated. You can see how it is indeed closing in that eye on the northeast coast of Nicaragua. Meantime, there is the projected path. Once it gets over land, it will expect to weaken over that land area, but certainly some tense times ahead for these people tonight. Our hearts just go out to everybody in Nicaragua impacted by Eta and now about to be impacted by Iota. One other thing to talk about over the tropics, this orange highlighted area per the National Hurricane Center. They'll be looking at it. It's over the southern Caribbean Sea, 40% chance of development over the next 5 days once we start to see a disturbance taking off there. So apparently the 2020 hurricane season not quite over.
Hurricane Iota, a Category 5 storm, the most powerful of this season, our 2020 hurricane season. It's approaching the coast of Central America. Even though the storm's still hours away from landfall, winds have been picking up across Nicaragua, also Colombia. Dr. Nab, you say mid-October because you would expect a strong storm then. Here we're mid-November, and this is the strongest of what seems like a never-ending 2020 season.
Yeah, only the second Category 5 we've ever had in the month of November in the Atlantic Basin. Second strongest on record for this month.
Hard to believe.
Strongest, as Mike said, that we've ever seen this late in the season. And what really makes this heartbreaking is that Central America is just 13 days removed from the landfall of Eta in about this exact same spot. We're about 4, 5, 6 hours away from landfall of the center of what could be a Category 5 when it comes ashore, but if not, it'll be right up there at that Cat 4 or 5 threshold. It's horrible. And moving west at 9 miles an hour, tropical storm conditions already on land, hurricane conditions not far behind, and it rapidly intensified, especially in the Sunday night into Monday morning time frame. That was the real big ramp up after going from tropical storm to hurricane Saturday night into Sunday. Most major hurricanes rapidly intensify, but this is ridiculous, isn't it? Look at how it just dominates the satellite image here in the Caribbean and Gulf area. You got your jet stream activity usual for November, except down here. Here's the big upper-level high-pressure system that we saw developing over the Caribbean. And again, these waters are way above the mid-80s, so it is way, way warm down in the Caribbean and warmer than average for this time of year throughout the entire Atlantic Basin. So that's one of the reasons why it feels more like September or October. So looking a little more closely, right before sunset, you can really see the shadows of the stadium effect of this major hurricane. Here's Puerto Cabezas, and here is the buzzsaw. And again, on the north side of this, that's where the most destructive winds and storm surge are going to be, 15 to 20 feet. I mean, it's just going to be absolutely devastating. Again, to an area that 13 days ago got a Cat 4. So, now this is taking a farther south track. In the big picture, Eta went up in this direction, but this one will be making a little bit different path over Central America. And this will be the only second time, Mike, that we've ever had 2 hurricanes hit Nicaragua in the same year, but in the same month, and both of these Cat 4+.
Yeah. Dr. Nab, thank you for that. Truly just devastating what we're about to see there, unfortunately, again, on the heels of what we saw with Eta.
Hola, ¿qué tal amigos? Estoy de vuelta con el pronóstico completo y lo comenzamos con la temperatura, las máximas llegando a 84 y hasta 86 en el aeropuerto de Miami. Pero noten que acá tenemos algunos ecos de lluvia, el tiempo ha estado seco. Esta es la antesala de un frente frío que viene moviéndose hacia nuestra zona y pudiera generar algunos chubascos adicionales. Esta noche, sobre todo durante el día de mañana, no estamos esperando un diluvio, pero bueno, regresa algo de lluvia para algunos sectores y luego se despeja y va a haber varios días de viento. Ahora vamos a hablar de eso. Acá tenemos el huracán, vientos de 160 millas por hora y hay aviso de huracán para toda esa zona centro, norte de Nicaragua. Pero miren esto, pocas veces se ve que un huracán comienza y en cuestión de horas pasa de tormenta, huracán, hasta un categoría 5. Eso no pasa siempre, pero cuando están todos los ingredientes, y este es el caso, en cuestión de horas se ha vuelto, yo diría, un monstruo, un ojo perfecto y fuerza realmente demoledora. La buena noticia es solamente 35 millas estaría llegando con esa fuerza destructora en las inmediaciones de Puerto Cabeza en las próximas horas y de ahí continuaría. Esto significa lluvia torrencial para Honduras y luego se disipa posiblemente, pero quiero que noten algo. Esta es una trayectoria y esta en color amarillo es la trayectoria de ETA, prácticamente en el mismo lugar y con condiciones parecidas, pero me han preguntado en las redes sociales, ¿este regresa o viene hacia el norte? No. Este es un viaje de no regreso, se disipa en esa zona. De todas maneras, me parece que la lluvia torrencial, Honduras, Guatemala, Nicaragua, incluso Costa Rica va a tener también bastante lluvia, por lo menos en algunos sectores. Sería algo grave en los próximos 2-3 días. Y si yo decir que se va a formar otro ciclón, lo voy a mostrar por si acaso alguien se lo dijo, pero no me preocupa mucho. Esto es parte del mismo sistema que se ha desprendido y pudiera comenzar a circular y formar otro ciclón en los próximos días, posiblemente de interés para Costa Rica. Para nosotros, las condiciones en el mar de 2 a 3 pies y aquí les dejo con el pronóstico extendido de los próximos días, la posibilidad de algunos chubascos mañana y espere luego miércoles, jueves y viernes con mucha brisa y temperaturas frescas.
Bien, muchas gracias, Eduardo. Bueno, hemos recibido imágenes de cómo desde hace unas horas ya se comienzan a sentir los primeros efectos de este huracán en Nicaragua. Jenny Padura nos muestra y también nos habla de la recolecta de ayuda a nivel local.
Así luce Puerto Cabezas, una región costera de Nicaragua por donde entró ETA y se estima que tocará tierra el huracán Iota esta noche.
El viento está fuerte y estamos a unos kilómetros. No hemos llegado al muelle, sin embargo se siente ya este efecto del huracán Iota.
Las fuertes lluvias y vientos de tormenta tropical comenzaron a sentirse desde horas de la tarde. Los expertos pronostican que los efectos de Iota categoría 5 sean devastadores en Nicaragua, país que ya fue duramente golpeado por ETA hace 2 semanas. La preocupación en Miami también se siente.
Cada vez que yo hago una recolecta para mi país o trabajo en pro de mi país, siempre me encuentro un hondureño llevándome una bolsa de comida.
Este poderoso sistema traerá vientos catastróficos, marejada ciclónica de hasta 20 pies en el noreste de Nicaragua. Durante el fin de semana, las autoridades nicaragüenses estuvieron asistiendo en la evacuación de aquellos residentes en las zonas costeras. Honduras y Guatemala experimentarán torrenciales aguaceros y en algunos puntos más de 20 pulgadas de lluvia. Debido al desolador panorama para esas naciones centroamericanas, aquí en Miami, varias organizaciones se han unido en la recolecta de insumos.
Hacemos un llamado a toda la comunidad hispana a que se unan con nosotros a traer medicamentos, ibuprofeno, que ahorita Honduras nos necesita mucho.
En varias estaciones de bomberos de la ciudad de Miami también se están recibiendo artículos de primera necesidad.
El gobierno no quieren ayudar en nada, entonces no hay que darles por lo menos un poquito de la mano y que se ayuden en algo, ¿no?
Recordemos que ETA cobró la vida de 120 personas en Centroamérica debido a las inundaciones y a los deslizamientos de tierra. Se prevé que este poderoso huracán categoría 5 sea aún más devastador. Estaremos al tanto. Jenny Padura, Noticias 23, Univisión.
Well, the storm station is tracking Hurricane Iota as it closes in on storm-weary Central America. People there have barely had a chance to recover from Eta, and they're about to take another hard hit. This rare November Category 5 system promises to bring torrential rain, destructive winds, and widespread flooding. 7's Jeff Lennox is in the Plex with this for us, Jeff.
Well, and Craig, as we've already seen in the forecast, Hurricane Iota has strengthened to a dangerous Category 5 storm as it moves through the Caribbean Sea. The storm already leaving a path of destruction behind as it takes aim right now in Nicaragua. The storm already submerging streets in Honduras. Video right here, someone capturing this scene on their cell phone. The winds picking up and the rain really coming down in parts. The system already made its mark along Colombia's coast, and although it did not make landfall, it brought torrential rain and devastating flooding to the region. The flooding triggering a landslide, trapping people, flipping vehicles. In some cases, residents seen here in waist-deep waters trying to reach dry land in Colombia. The hours ticking, and residents are doing their best in Nicaragua before Iota comes ashore. Residents are boarding up and setting up shelters for the aftermath. Now, rain and winds have already picked up in some areas of the country. Weather officials say Iota could bring catastrophic damage with up to 16 inches of rain in some areas. Flooding also a major issue with this system. Other neighboring countries, too, like Guatemala, are expected to get hit with rain and wind also in the coming days. Guatemala is still reeling from the effects left behind by Hurricane Iota, which hit as a Category 4 storm, triggering flooding, landslides, and deaths as it moved through. Many people had to be air rescued from the rising waters after Iota. When Iota makes landfall in Nicaragua and coastal Honduras very soon, it will be the first time on record 2 major hurricanes at a Category 3 or higher may landfall in the same season. Live in the Plex, Jeff Lennox, 7 News.
All right, Jeff, our Team 7 coverage continues now with Chief Meteorologist Phil Farrow. Phil.
All right, so let's take a look at this monster called Iota. This is the close-up view. You can see the eye, the center of circulation, spinning and aiming towards Nicaragua, especially Puerto Cabezas, the very same spot that Hurricane Iota made landfall merely 2 weeks ago. As of the 4 p.m. advisory, 160-mile-per-hour winds. This is the strongest hurricane this season, moving west at 9 miles per hour. So it will make landfall later on tonight and then losing a little bit of its intensity around 1 o'clock in the morning. Still a major system, Category 3, and then raining itself out across the northern Nicaragua, Honduras, and El Salvador down the road. But all that heavy rain will lead to some major flooding, land and mudslides. These are the areas that are under watches and warnings. Take a look at that area highlighted in red. That's where they are going to get hit the worst. A storm surge of about 20 feet can be expected on top of the high tide that will be moving across the coastal waters there. Meanwhile, this is the dangerous system. 10 to 20 inches of rain can be expected with some spots all the way up to 30. Catastrophic wind damage wherever the eye or the center moves on shore. And again, that wall of water of 15 to 20 feet. This is going to be disastrous for northern Nicaragua and coastal Honduras. We will have more on this and our local forecast a little bit later on in weather.
Well, people in Central America are still struggling to recover after Iota. Ahead at 6, details on how you can help hurricane victims with donations right here in South Florida.
Pretty windy already early in the day today at Corn Island in Nicaragua. We already had some of the high winds that we're approaching. Listen, this is a very formidable storm. It's a large one that's coming in. It's going to be the strongest storm that we've had so far this hurricane season in a season of seasons of hurricanes. Winds at 160 miles per hour. In fact, the new advisory just now coming across at 7 p.m. Eastern time with 160. Nothing's really changed here. The barometric pressure 918 millibars. Still a westward movement at about 9 to 10 miles per hour and sitting about 35 miles. The center of the storm is about 35 miles offshore now. So we're moving to the west at about 9. And you can do the math here pretty simply here, Meredith. It's just going to get worse as the evening goes along until landfall. And then you got the second half coming in after midnight tonight.
Absolutely heartbreaking. And we're thinking of everybody in Honduras and some of the surrounding islands, Nicaragua, because they're still recovering. And unfortunately, David, you look at this storm, it gives you goosebumps even here in studio.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, I know it's 2020 and a lot of stuff, weird stuff has happened here, but this is coming along the same path with almost the same intensity. Right. November the 3rd was when Iota went through there with almost the same kind of intensity, and, you know, still almost 300 people either dead or missing still in these. I don't think it's just Nicaragua. I think it's also Honduras where the count for 300 is there, but not so much just because of the wind, by the way. The structures there, they're not able to take that kind of wind. I know we get 150, 160 here in the continental United States with all the brand new structures that we have, and it's demolished. So can you imagine 150 down there in an impoverished country like Nicaragua, Honduras? And this is only going to get much worse as we go through the night tonight and into the early part of the day on Tuesday. So What we are watching here is the storm just offshore again. As we were saying, about 35 miles. The center of the storm is about 35 miles offshore, and then coming onshore as we go into the rest of this evening. That's what we'll be looking at. As it passes on to the west, it'll come onshore, and then as we get into the early part of the day, on Tuesday, you'll see it downgraded to a Category 3 type hurricane coming onshore through Nicaragua. Now, it's in some pretty tall mountains here as you get onto the central and western side of Nicaragua and beyond and into Honduras. It is going to diminish it quite rapidly as far as the wind goes, but it's the rainfall, the tremendous rain that's going to continue to fall in all of these areas that is going to once again cause mudslides to take place, and it's really a sad situation there. We'll try to keep you updated on what is going on. Late season systems, sure, we've had lots of them. Steve has some more information about those and about some of the tips we still get from late season storms.
The official end to hurricane season might look close, but October and November can still produce impactful storms with a history of producing major hurricanes. Here's a look at some of the most memorable late-season tropical cyclones. In 2016, Hurricane Matthew paralleled the southeast U.S. coast, eventually making landfall in South Carolina on October 8th. 3 million coastal residents were evacuated across the southeast. Matthew peaked as a Category 5 hurricane in the Caribbean with winds of 165 miles per hour. The storm killed 600 people, 500 of them in Haiti. Hurricane Michael. Category 5 Hurricane Michael made landfall near Mexico Beach, Florida on October 10, 2018. Storm surge reached up to 14 feet. Hurricane force wind roared inland, tearing across Georgia. Total damages are estimated at $25 billion. Hurricane Wilma. In the historic 2005 season, Wilma made landfall in southwest Florida on October 24th as a major hurricane. Wilma holds the record for the lowest estimated pressure for an Atlantic Basin hurricane at 882 millibars. Maximum winds reached up to 185 miles per hour. Hurricane Sandy. Post-tropical cyclone Sandy made landfall on October 29th, 2012, bringing catastrophic storm surge across New Jersey and New York. Sandy damaged or destroyed more than 650,000 homes. Sandy is still one of the costliest storms to ever hit the United States. Hurricane Otto. During the week of Thanksgiving in 2016, Otto rapidly intensified into a Category 3 hurricane in the southwestern Caribbean before making landfall in Nicaragua. Otto became the latest hurricane to form in the Caribbean and was also the strongest so late in the year. Other noteworthy late-season tropical cyclones include Joaquin, Mitch, Ida, Paloma, Lenny, and Kate. For Weather Nation, I'm meteorologist Steve Glazier.
Tonight, Central America, keeping an eye on Iota.
It's going to be a catastrophe pretty much again.
Just weeks after a catastrophic hurricane hit, another major system set to storm ashore.
They are already poor. And, for this to happen is going to be even worse.
South Florida, lending a helping hand.
We are going to be there for the long run.
As storm-weary residents bracing for a second strike.
Well, Iota is a dangerous Category 4 storm right now, bringing with it life-threatening wind, torrential rain, and massive flooding to parts of Central America. And our team's Maricela Burgos is in Doral with how one South Florida group is gearing up to help storm victims. Maricela.
Well, you have several agencies in this community that are trying to fill up trucks like the one that you see behind me with supplies to send over to Central America. People in Central America are bracing for yet another hurricane less than 2 weeks apart. Martha Reyes, who lives in Nicaragua, is pleading for their government to support them as much as possible, saying they don't have food or much else to weather the Category 5 system. Ada left behind destruction in Central America, and now Iota is going to cause even more problems. We're starting to see some of those powerful images of the damage as the major hurricane moves through the region, flooding and families forced out of their homes.
Lo que pase ahora.
People on the ground there know Iota will double their problems after Ada's destruction. As the Red Cross moves in locally, organizations across South Florida are not sitting back.
It breaks my heart, and I know that, it'll break everyone's heart, so people will respond to the great need that they have.
They're collecting supplies to help families who will desperately need it. Martha Hernandez set up a collection drive in Doral for her home country of Honduras.
Right now, what we're most needing is medicines, mattresses, tools, so the people over there could go back, and recover the little that is left.
Organizers with food for the poor are busy too, putting together shipments to send to Honduras, Nicaragua, Guatemala, El Salvador, Belize, and Jamaica.
We have been really busy. Already we have sent 96 containers of aid to the countries that were hit.
With Thanksgiving around the corner, organizers hope Floridians will donate whatever they can.
It's very difficult to understand that for us, Thanksgiving is kind of disappointing this year because of the virus, and we may not be able to get together with all our family. But for them, Thanksgiving, they give thanks just when they can feed their children a plate of rice and beans.
Everyone is trying to do their part right now, getting those crucial items loaded up, ready to go to provide relief to families who lost everything.
They are already poor, and for this to happen is going to be even worse.
If you'd like to drop off donations here to this warehouse, go to 1520 Northwest 79th Avenue, Monday through Saturday, 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. We've also put a list of other organizations where you can drop off donations that will be sent to Central America. Go to our website, WSVN.com. Live in Doral, Maricela Burgos, 7 News 19.
And Maricela, our Team 7 coverage continues now with Chief Meteorologist Phil Farrow. What a storm, Phil.
Incredible. This is a monster system, and it is getting ready to make landfall right now across Puerto Cabezas. That is in the northernmost part there of Nicaragua. Now, it has weakened a little bit as of the 10 p.m. advisory. Winds are down from 160 to 155. But keep in mind, a Category 5 system starts at 156 miles per hour. So this weakening is minimal. Now, we'll continue to move towards the west at around 9 miles per hour, impacting northern Nicaragua, Honduras, and then El Salvador down the road, dropping a lot of rain. That will lead to flooding, land, and mudslides. So this is what we're looking at as far as rain is concerned. 10 to 20 inches with some spots as much as 30 inches of rain. Meanwhile, as far as wind, catastrophic wind damage along the path of the eye. And then, of course, that storm surge anywhere between 15 to 20 feet across coastal Nicaragua and Honduras. And you've heard that this is the second system to impact that same area. This was the path that Eta took earlier this month, coming across right over Puerto Cabezas with 140-mile-per-hour winds. We'll have more on this and our local forecast a little bit later on in weather.
Down to the Keys we go. We are dry for now, but some rain will be headed your way by the later half of the day as that front does move a bit more south. So, wanted to go over what happened overnight as we're tracking Iota. Unfortunately, another powerful system hit Central America about 15 miles just south of where Eta made landfall 2 weeks ago as a Category 3 hurricane. It had winds of 155 miles per hour, made landfall last night at 10:40. As of now, it's continued to push on shore over Nicaragua, winds of 105 miles per hour moving west at 9. There's also another area we're watching in the wake of Iota. It's an area of low pressure over the southern half of the Caribbean with a 40% chance of development. More on that cold front and that wonderful weather we're going to have coming up in just a bit.
From record-breaking heat, we want to turn now to a record-breaking hurricane season. Iota making landfall as a powerful Category 4 hurricane just 15 miles south of where Eta made landfall in Nicaragua, marking the first time on record 2 major hurricanes have made landfall in Nicaragua in the same season, let alone 2 weeks apart. Iota delivering a catastrophic blow to Central America, unleashing strong winds and heavy rain, increasing the threat for flash flooding and landslides. Jim, I'm not sure if you saw some of the video from late last night and into this morning on social media. It looked like just a wall of water crashing into Nicaragua. Wall of water meaning as tall as buildings at some spots.
15 to 20 foot surge, that would be, yeah, 1 or 2 story building right there coming on in. So not surprising, Tevin. You know, you look at this, of course, we go back to Sunday and we're watching this thing kind of futz around through the afternoon. Then you wake up Monday morning and you've got a strong Cat 4. And yesterday we were talking about this becoming a Cat 5. So, you know, typically, you've heard of rapid intensification all season long. There you go, 90 to 160. What's that? 70 miles, right? So it takes 35 miles an hour in 24 hours. So you had a two-banger there in terms of the rapid intensification. We've seen that in the past, certainly, but we saw it with Iota, making it, you know, the second strongest November hurricane on record to strike anywhere, obviously, in the northern hemisphere and through here. So pretty incredible lineup there with those storms, that's for sure. So this one came in about 30 miles to the south of Puerto Cabezas, about 50 miles to the south of Ada, which is where, you know, that came in on November 3rd, for goodness sake. This one a lot stronger, unfortunately. So we had more storm surge in through here. We had more winds gusting over 100 miles per hour around Puerto Cabezas. And now you've got literally the same line of what Ada did, bringing us this phenomenal amount of rainfall. Now, it's a fraction of its former self. It's barely, you know, a hurricane now at 85 miles per hour here, but it's still moving off to the west. Look at right up here, you got east-west mountains. Look at the convection here. All right, they're getting crushed with rainfall. And this is an area that had 3 feet of rain last time. So even though they're not near the center, they are getting hammered by the rainfall with the northeast winds. And that's going to continue to be the case as we go on through the day today and this thing winds down. This one, though, is not coming north into the Gulf of Mexico. It is going into the Pacific.
Hurricane Iota made landfall in northeastern Nicaragua overnight as a Category 4 storm. And this was the scene in Puerto Cabezas, the torrential downpour leaving more than 10 inches of rainfall. All of it as Nicaraguan residents are still recovering from Ada.
Just rough to see. Iota's heavy downpour is also causing massive flooding in Toccoa, Honduras. Firefighters were seen walking through what's supposed to be a cemetery that was left inundated after a river next to it overflowed. Let's get right to our chief certified meteorologist, Betty Davis, with an update. Betty.
Hi, everyone. Iota is overland and weakening. It now has maximum sustained winds of 60 miles per hour, moving west at 12 miles per hour. This is the satellite imagery, still producing some rainfall, by the way, for parts of Central America, and it will just continue to dissipate ultimately over land. Meantime, the National Hurricane Center is still highlighting an area over the southwestern Caribbean Sea. Next day or so may see a broad area of low pressure form here. Right now, they're saying conditions may not be looking quite as conducive as they were. Either way, a 30% chance of development over the next 5 days, and whether something forms or not, this is a feature that could still stand to bring some more rainfall over parts of Central America. I'll be back in a few minutes with our local forecast. Drier and drier, feeling better and better. I think you're going to like what I have to say. Nicole?
Okay, that sounds good. Thanks, Ben.
All right, everyone, welcome in. So glad you're joining us tonight for Weather Underground. I'm Mike Bettis.
I'm Alex Wilson. Starting to get a glimpse of the destruction across Central America. This from Hurricane Iota. Mike, scarily close to where another storm, Ada, made landfall about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. Way too close. Unfortunately, this one coming in also as a Category 4, just like Ada did 13 plus days prior, right? We've seen some of the destruction that has happened there, a lot of flooding, mudslides, landslides. Those are all issues for us. And our hurricane expert, Dr. Rick Knabb, is with us again tonight. Dr. Knabb, these images that we're seeing now, nearly identical to what we saw, you know, with Ada, Dr. Knabb. And the worst may still be yet to come as the waters will continue to rise here. How big is a threat of flooding for Central America?
It's astronomically high because we aren't done with the rain. I mean, the center of what is now Tropical Storm Iota is sitting over the southern portions of the Honduras border with Nicaragua on its northwestern side. So this is still the middle of the event in terms of the rainfall and flooding and landslides, even though this is nowhere near the windstorm and storm surge maker that it was. Continues to move off to the west, so it'll be going through southern Honduras into El Salvador here to become a tropical depression in a little while. But here's where it peaked out at Cat 5, and this was the landfall intensity at 155 miles an hour. This is the effect of land, but it's mainly going to be the water. Look at the upper level high pressure that is still dominating the Western Caribbean and Central America. So this, again, like Ada did, is making the transition into this kind of Central American gyre kind of thing. So it's a big circulation. Look at all this moisture coming out of the Pacific into the Western Caribbean, and you're just getting hour after hour after hour of heavy rainfall, all fed by the really warm waters here in the Caribbean. Still 85, 86, 87 degrees, and it's all continuing to remain warmer than average on the Caribbean side especially. So look at all these thunderstorms that are still offshore. And one area of great concern is the northern portion of Honduras into portions of Guatemala, because there's these mountain ranges in here, and all this flow is going right up into those mountains, squeezes out extra moisture, and we get then the water coming downhill after it falls. So there's the center circulation in here, but Managua on the south side getting hammered, and look at all these bubbling thunderstorms in those northern mountains in Honduras. So when you look at the track forecast, this isn't the big deal. The circulation is going to lose its definition over the next couple of days, but here is the really bad part of the forecast, where this is rain to come, and this is over the next 7 days, because we don't just have Iota to worry about. Got another system coming into the Western Caribbean. Again, we still have, from this point forward, a half a foot, 2 feet of rain, depending on where you are, and both models highlight that area there in central Guatemala and northern Honduras, and that is on top of what has happened so far, including here in eastern Nicaragua, where they've also, now like northern Honduras, cleared 3 feet for the month. Alex, another system trying to develop has a low chance of formation, but it's going to add to the rainfall into next week.
Bueno, Iota se ha degradado a tormenta tropical, pero continúa azotando a Centroamérica. Anoche tocó tierra por la costa del Caribe de Nicaragua como huracán categoría 4, causando severos daños, como podemos ver en estas imágenes. Jenny Padura nos tiene más.
Así está el municipio de Puerto Cabezas. Los techos de las casas cedieron a los fuertes vientos, postes y árboles caídos, causando serias afectaciones de comunicación, y familiares en Miami al borde de la desesperación por los suyos en Nicaragua.
Nosotros vivimos del cultivo, pero hoy en día nuestras tierras están dañadas, no hay forma de que podamos cultivar, no hay forma que salgamos al mar a buscar la pesca, porque no tenemos herramientas de trabajo, todo se dañó.
En Bilwi, algunos vecindarios quedaron convertidos en ríos por las inundaciones, especialmente aquellos cerca de la costa. Los residentes están sin energía eléctrica desde anoche.
Desde las 12 de la noche no tenemos noticias, estamos preocupados. Última vez que hablé, se estaban llevando los cines, la casa se estaba llenando de agua y no sabemos nada.
La angustia crece minuto a minuto porque la gente se ha quedado a la merced de un gobierno que no permite que la ayuda llegue a los damnificados.
Podemos llevar un plato de comida, pero más no podemos hacer. Ayúdenos, por favor.
En Honduras se esperan lluvias torrenciales, principalmente en la franja sur, que las autoridades han catalogado de peligrosas y mortales. Iota provocó peligrosa marejada ciclónica con penetraciones del mar que cobraron la vida de una persona en las islas de San Andrés y Providencia. Una devastación sin precedentes, según el presidente colombiano Iván Duque.
Hay una afectación máxima de infraestructura. Estamos hablando de un deterioro de cerca del 98% de la infraestructura de la isla de Providencia.
Mientras, aquí en Miami, la gente continúa solidarizada con Centroamérica porque en los próximos días las necesidades de esos pueblos afectados irán aumentando. Y toda esa ayuda se está recibiendo en estos momentos en 5 estaciones de bomberos de la ciudad de Miami. La mejor forma de ayudar al pueblo nicaragüense es a través de la organización foodforthepoor.org. Jenny Padura, Noticias 23. Univision.
Here's the forecast for tonight. It'll be 50s around the lake, 60s along coastal Palm Beach County. I think everyone will drop into the 60s for overnight lows, and it'll be high 50s and low 60s around the Treasure Coast. There's also a meteor shower going on. You may see a few shooting stars. It peaked early this morning, but there's still a chance to see a few overnight and into tomorrow night too. We still have a tropical storm to the south. Last night at this time, this had 155-mile-an-hour winds and was making landfall in Nicaragua. Now it's moving through El Salvador, but you can see it's such an expansive storm that it's having a big impact across Central America. Winds at 40, moving west at 12, a short track for this. There's one other area that we'll keep an eye on late in the week, still in the southern Caribbean, although the chances for development have dropped and it's not expected to have any kind of impact in South Florida's weather. I'll let you know what's in store as we get into the weekend, and we're going to talk about another front on the way tomorrow, coming up.
Good morning, everyone. Tracking the tropics this early morning. Such a busy hurricane season. We're 2 weeks away from the end of the hurricane season. We're still watching two areas out there. Potential. Basically, we have the first one in the Caribbean. A low pressure system is likely to form in the next couple of days. Slow development is possible. Good news, it will be tracking west-southwest, so no threat to the United States or South Florida. Has a medium chance for tropical development. Meanwhile, an area of low pressure may form around this area between the Bahamas and Bermuda. It will be tracking towards the northeast in the next couple of days as well, and has a low to medium chance of tropical development.
Vanessa, thank you. So while Iota has weakened, the Honduran army evacuating families right now across that country because of all the flooding rains.
The storm's impacting nearly the identical area that was slammed earlier this month by Hurricane Iota. Right now, authorities are struggling to assess damage after communications were knocked out in some areas. You feel for them.
It's awful. Well, this morning, the city of West Palm Beach going local now, saying yard waste and bulk item pickup service is temporarily behind schedule. So the city says this is because of the large amount of yard waste they had from Tropical Storm Iota. So customers, you're going to have a one-day delay for the rest of this week, so keep that in mind. If your regular pickup day is Tuesday, your items will now be collected Wednesday, today.
Rain continuing to pour into the West Coast for your Thanksgiving week. Alex.
Well, what's left of Iota is pushing back out to sea at the moment, but not before devastating Central America. Iota roared its way through Colombia's Provincia Island there, excuse me, east of Nicaragua. It ripped roofs off of homes and businesses. The Colombian president there said 98% of the infrastructure on that island here has been ruined. Just really, again, a devastating situation here. And again, we're still dealing with it. Even though we now have the final advisory here when it comes to Iota, it is still bringing with it heavy rain, downpours in areas that certainly do not need it. But again, there's the final advisory. There is the sort of core of the system here, what's left of it here, that's beginning to emerge and move back over here now into the eastern portions of the Pacific. It'll continue to move westbound. That's what it's doing right now at about 12 miles per hour. But boy, rainfall across this area over the last month or so, it has really gotten a chance to add up. Those whites and the gray shades, that corresponds to, in some cases, 3 feet of rain, at least. In some cases, even more than that. And when you compare what it dealt with here just a couple of weeks ago with Ada moving right on in, that was its location and its path. Well, take a look at what happened with Iota. Basically 15 miles just to the south of Ada here for you. And again, these two systems here, major hurricanes separated by just 2 weeks. Well, behind that, we're still not done with the season. There's still about a 20% chance of another area that we're watching here, here in the western portions of the Caribbean. We'll have to keep an eye on that. Now, whether or not it develops or not, almost becomes a moot point because it's still going to bring some rain into some of these areas from Colombia back into portions of Nicaragua, Honduras. And so those areas that have already been waterlogged, additional rainfall certainly will not help us out at all. Felicia?
Yeah, last thing that you want to see there. Well, parts of the West right now dealing with